Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 30, and I am Adam Choit. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and I'm at Adam Choit on Instagram as well if you want to follow me. And of course, I have no affiliation with Tedeschi Trucks Band. This is not an official podcast or anything. I'm just a fan. And if you're listening to this show, I'm guessing there's a good chance that you might be too. So please be sure to subscribe as well and give the show a positive review on iTunes. Doing those things is definitely helpful for sure. So, today's guest is New Jersey's own musician Dan Toppo. Growing up, he loved music, but thought he'd end up in mathematics or finance, until his dad just kept on taking him to see the Allman Brothers at the Beacon Theater. And when Dan was around 14, he started playing slide guitar, and other than learning some other instruments along the way, he hasn't looked back. We talked Duane, we talked Derek, we talked slide guitar, and we talked Dan's musical partner, singer-songwriter Dylan Hartigan. Let's just get into this one. Here's Dan Toppo. So it's good to see you today, Dan Toppo. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the invitation, Adam.
Oh, how are you holding up during this super fun 2020?
You know, I think like everyone else at first, it was kind of crazy and everything, but I think I've started to figure it out and making a schedule every day and keeping busy. So, we make the best out of a bad situation, right?
Yeah, everyone seems to have a pretty good attitude. Maybe I'm just talking to a bunch of doers, some people who have goals and dreams and hopes and dreams and things they want to accomplish and passions. I guess that's a big part of it, is just if you find something that you're passionate about that you could pursue or at least occupy your time with, or even make a living out of, like that can help see you through tough times, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
Why don't we get into it? And you can tell me about your life in music. And you were born in Jersey. And what are your earliest music memories? Anything even before elementary school? There's any songs or instruments or family influences jump out at you from real young, earliest memories?
Yeah, well, thankfully my dad, introduced me to all the really good music at a young age. And I remember being in elementary school, listening to Led Zeppelin, and I think that was the one band that really hit me at first. But he was also always taking me to concerts. I mean, from the age of 10, so this was 2006 or so, he started taking me to the Allman Brothers concerts at the Beacon every year. And that ended up being a tradition with me and him. And, we went to every one until, 2014. The last show, and we saw, I think we were at 3 of those shows. So it was a good time.
That's awesome. Did you have siblings growing up?
I have an older brother, and he played trumpet. I was always involved with music as a kid. In school, I was in band. In high school, I was in marching band and jazz band and wind ensemble, all that stuff. But I never thought, it's funny because I was always a part of music, growing up, but I never thought it would be something I'd pursue because, I come from a family of 2 parents who are lawyers and a brother who's a doctor. So I never thought I'd end up here, but, I guess this is where I am now, and I'm just, going forward with it.
What were you into besides music in elementary school? Were you into sports or art or other interests, or were you a good student?
Yeah.
What were you into?
My parents kind of pushed me to just pursue whatever I was, doing at the time or feeling at the time. So I was playing sports. I was into lacrosse a lot, and, music, I was picking up piano and drums and guitar. And, I was a good student. So
even when you were that young, you were playing all those instruments when you were in elementary school?
I was dabbling. It was really drums I really started with. And then I stuck with that throughout middle school. And toward the end of middle school, I started getting into classical piano.
See, that's what I mean. You were actually good and had ability, or did you get good? See, dabble to. I'm picturing if a 6, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10 is dabbling, they're just making noise. But it sounds like you were making music. How did you do that at a young age?
Yeah, look, I was in all the concert bands, and I took it seriously. I really liked it, so I would practice a lot.
In elementary school, you were in
fourth grade. Fourth grade, I would actually.
Yeah. What instrument did you play in fourth grade band?
I played drums, but it was basically just hitting a practice pad at that point.
Right. But that
Um,
exposed you to a lot of different instruments, it sounds like.
yeah, definitely. I was always into
Gotcha.
woodwinds, but I never really got in there. But it was really. I've always liked it again, and that's kind of been a theme in my life. Like I like certain things, and I know I'm going to take those certain things to the grave. And music is definitely one of them. I'm realizing this more now. I didn't really realize it as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like music being like a real serious thing and being regarded as just a serious part of the human experience, like I used to think like, oh, when people say, oh, that band saved my life or that song saved my life was there for me when I like I used to kind of like dismiss that like that kind of stuff, but it really does get people through tough times and not even just like tough emotional times, like literally people who are ill. Like I know there's been, I'm sure, some studies out there that shows how music affects people's attitudes and ability to recover from trauma or
Yeah, yeah,
medical conditions and so forth.
yeah. No, I definitely,
Impactful.
I agree with that. I definitely have a lot of important experiences in my life, and music was, or whatever I was listening to at that time, sticks with that memory. So I totally get that. Yeah,
Early on in elementary school, you said you were kind of listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin, and you were also listening to, I'm guessing, whatever you're in, you were digging into whatever you had to play for school.
yeah.
What was it about, Zeppelin that you were really into, and was there anything else like, you were kind of exposed to or jumps out at you at elementary school age?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, man. I think there was the first time was that I heard rock and roll, Robert Plant just going for it, and really Bonham, because I really started with the drums, and I remember hearing like these huge sounds, and that really moved me. I remember being in camp as a fifth grader, and my buddy Matt with his iPod Classic or whatever it was at the time, he was just walking around listening to Zeppelin. I was like, give me one of those headphones because I want to sit here with you and just listen. So it's really drums and vocals. I really wasn't listening for the guitar much, which is funny now because I listen to Zeppelin now and it's a completely different experience than when I listened to it as a kid.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. They're powerful. They're a powerful rock and roll band. I mean, that's that's the appeal.
Yeah,
And of course, blues based and all that. I'm sure as a guitar player, and once you started picking that up, that will make you look at Zeppelin, different. When you
yeah, yeah.
hear their music again. What about as you kind of got older and like into middle school? I was reading that basically. You went to a Beacon show and then you're like, all right, I'm playing guitar, I'm playing slide guitar. Is that pretty much the next step of your musical journey?
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people had the same experience, being like the youngest kid in that crowd, but still like kind of, I really didn't get it at first. I think I was a little too young at 10, but once I was 13, 14, that's when I really like started getting it and like understanding the music and understanding what jamming was. Because, Zeppelin doesn't jam. There were very like amazing parts all written out, and the sound is so cohesive. Um, but Allman Brothers was just jamming, and I didn't really understand that until I was a little older, maybe late middle school, early high school, and then that was just like a light bulb went on, and because I heard, I was hearing these things, and it was the first time that I was like, I want to do that, you know. I hadn't had that feeling before. And then I finally was mature enough and I just sat down with it and it kind of just didn't really click, but it's what I wanted to do.
That's that's cool. Wow. So you heard a lot of the Allman Brothers music before you went to this. That was your first. Was it really one of those like really profound moments where it was like your first show and then you're like I'm playing guitar. Did you hear a lot of Allman Brothers before? You must have, like, because you said your
Yeah.
dad was playing the
Yeah.
records, but
Growing up,
just live was just such an impactful thing.
definitely, and especially when I was 13 and 14 and then coming home. And then I remember distinctly driving in the car with my dad and we were listening to to when Derek was on the road with Eric Clapton. This was like 2006. He was on the road with him, I think, and that was on Sirius XM. And I remember hearing his outro solo on Layla, and that was, I think, that's what really told me that I needed to do this. Like I needed to, like I want to do this. Like I want to make the guitar sound like that. So it was like perfect. It was a perfect culmination. I think it was just building up over those years of going to those concerts and just like constantly listening. And then, once I was 13, 14, it was it. I knew this is what I wanted. So
had you played any guitar up to that point?
And my dad was, he had always played guitar when we were kids and stuff. And
guitar playing lawyer.
Yeah. He should have went for it. He went to law school instead. But what are you going to do? But I would play chords, and there were songs I wanted to learn, but I never really wanted to learn how to solo. I just liked songs and chord progressions. I always found really nice.
But basically, it was Derek's playing, and especially the slide playing, that made you want to get into the soloing, the jamming, and just guitar in general.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Wow. And what was the next part of your musical journey? We go out and buy a guitar. We start taking slide lessons. What do we do from there?
Well, my dad always he has a bunch of guitars just laying around the house, and he had picked up slide, when he was when I was a little younger. So he had a guitar that was set up pretty well, and he had slides laying around, and it was just like starting from the basics. Blues. I went back to the things that moved me, like the simpler Derek licks and like the Duane licks. And I remember sitting in front of the computer, recording myself playing Statesboro Blues. It was probably like a month into learning, and my thumb was like completely under the neck. It was terrible, but that was the start of it, man. And it's so funny, look, because I don't think about this much anymore, but like just being so open to learning was such an important thing for me back then. And it's something I really need to go back to, because that's when you get stuck, you just focus, tunnel vision, you're focusing on one thing. I think it's so important to just have an open mind when you're playing, just learn everything you want to learn. And that's kind of what I did. There was no direction, just play to play and have fun, and it kind of just worked itself out.
You played along to music. Is that kind of, you tune your guitar to an open tuning and then kind of play along with the slides? Is that kind of the thought?
Yeah, that was it, man. Just playing along to all those CDs, because we had so many of them.
What about technique? Is that something your dad was able to pass along, some general technique? Because obviously slide, I play a little guitar and I dabbled with slide, but haven't been able to get very far with it and kind of put it away on the shelf for now. But is it the muting the strings? Is it the moving up and down the neck? What do you find the most challenging aspects of it?
I mean, back then was definitely muting. That was the hardest thing for me. But again, I don't even remember it being like, I don't have very clear memories of my progression. I think I was just, playing all the time and just so excited to play that I would, adjust little things as I was going. And
you have a good ear. I think that's what it is. You're able to hear when something's wrong and sort of figure out with your body and your hands how to make it the right note. And just by playing along, it just keeps.
And it was also watching, because we're lucky enough that we can just pull up YouTube videos and watch Derek play. And there are even some videos of Duane. We can watch Duane play. And I think that's really how I learned technique. It's just, honing in on right hand and left hand and just seeing what's going on and trying to emulate that. And
that seems so hard to do.
Yeah, but you find your own way along the way. You learn a few things, and okay, this is the basic thing I should do. All right, we'll make it work my own way. So that's kind of what I did.
Sounds like you were able to pick it up fairly fast. But you don't really remember like any like big jumps in your ability. It was just all so gradually, but happening. It was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think because I had never thought I was going to be a full-time musician until after I graduated college. So, I mean, once I dedicated all my time to playing, then, I mean, obviously, I think I, I remember noticeable differences just from playing every day and gigging every week. But before that, it was just like playing for fun every day. When I just had extra time, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was that sort of like progression from going from middle school to high school? Where did your musical journey go from there?
Yeah, well, there was a solid portion of my life that I was listening to classical music and I wanted to play classical music on piano. I distinctly remember
What ages was that like from?
15. This was sophomore year of high school, 15. I remember going into the practice room and a girl who is still one of my best friends was playing Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu, and I was just like, I was frozen. I was like almost in tears, and that's something that I really wanted to do. So I dedicated a couple. God, maybe that was to my senior year. I took it seriously, and we have a piano at home. My mom played as a kid, um, and I picked it up. And luckily, I do have a pretty good ear, so for melody. So I was able to pick up on the melodies, and then I was able to read music very slowly. But I learned some, like waltzes and nocturnes, and
Wow, so you kind of picked up. I feel like classical piano. That's something most people pick up probably or find themselves in early, especially if
yeah,
somewhat forced, not forced upon you, but if you're exposed to it, like, you hear about these young kids and then they become like prodigies or even just skilled, but you kind of picked it up in your teen. Was it
right.
just to impress that girl you in
No,
school?
no. That's so funny. I can't wait to tell her about this. It was not too impressive. It just really moved me. It was like same thing with Derek's playing, and I
Right, I
think
was
that
going to say the melody. You mention melody.
yeah, it's just, and that's how it's always been. Like when things really move me, I want to learn them and like dedicate a lot of time to them because they don't get old. Like even the Derek's like I've played the same licks for years now, and it's like they never get old. It's
Yeah.
those classical melodies. I never, still get chills every time I hear them. So
Yeah, they do. You know what? It's funny because I think of like, oh, I appreciate classical music. I like classical music, but it doesn't really move me as much as like rock and roll or Derek's
yeah,
guitar. But that's not true.
yeah,
There's definitely been moments in my life when I hear classical music, and it definitely takes you to another time and place in a sense because it's timeless.
yeah. You're absolutely right. It stood the test of time. Even with like I started, once I found out about Derek's Indian classical influence, I got into that too, and that was like the same thing that really moved me. So I've just always been wanting to find things that move me, and then just see if I can emulate them.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a whole episode at some point just about Derek's Indian and classical influences or
There's a
jazz
lot there.
influences. There's so many avenues I could go with that, and
Yeah.
for for sure. What were you in bands in high school or anything like that?
Um. Uh. Outside of school,
Yeah, outside of school.
I was in one band as a freshman in high school. I played drums for a band called the Schwam. I think they're still playing actually. Definitely some good times, just like carefree, like making good music and hanging out with friends. Um, I definitely look back at those times fondly. Um, but I was never thinking like this would be I'm dedicating my life to playing in a band. I wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Right. It sounds like you were focused more on the classical piano playing throughout high school as well. I have.
Yeah, I really wasn't. I was doing so many different things in high school just because luckily my parents were like, just do everything and like find out what you like. So, I was focusing on school, sports, music, obviously girls around that time, just exploring being a kid and finding out what I liked. Um, so
Oh, for sure.
I really wasn't honed in on one thing until recently, a couple of years ago now.
So what were you thinking, like junior, senior year? What were your plans for college or majors or careers or anything like that? Did you have
Yeah,
any sort of thoughts in terms of those things?
yeah. And I always thought, you get good grades, you do well on the SAT, you go to a good college, and you get a good job. I was thinking like, okay, I'll end up.
Life is not like they tell you it's going to be, huh? They don't tell you the truth. Oh
No,
man.
no. But you have to realize I came from two lawyers and a brother who's a doctor, so that was a framework.
Sure.
And I always thought I'd be, like a quantitative person, maybe working in finance or something like that. That was what I was thinking as a junior. Yeah.
Because you were good at math and just academically you're doing well as well.
Yeah, and I've always loved math, and in college I majored in math, and I loved it, and I always thought I was gonna, and I think math is always going to be a big part of my life.
What don't you like? You seem like a pretty even-keeled, open-minded person who has passions. What don't you like? School subject-wise, or even music-wise. What
Yeah,
kind of turns you off?
that's a good question, man. I
Yeah,
never liked
totally random.
no, I never liked history. I didn't really like reading fiction novels. I liked Stephen King. That was it. I was more like I kind of knew by high school. Like I like math. I like music. These two things are going to be part of my life. Until I'm in the grave. So I knew from then, but I was still dabbling. With things, sports and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying. Yeah, like I'm still trying to learn things. So
Yeah, especially now is the time to learn. I threaten to learn all kinds of things.
yeah, it's good, man. It's good. It keeps
No,
you
it is for sure. For
keeps you
sure.
quick on your feet.
No, that's definitely true. Tell me more about college. You said you were studying math. Where did you go?
Yeah,
Where were you musically? Were you still playing guitar, piano? What were you doing then?
yeah. Well, so I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick and in New Jersey for people who don't know. And I knew from the beginning I was going to major in math. My uncle's also a mathematician, so he kind of convinced me. And I was really focused on my studies. I was taking harder courses, and I always had a guitar. I never really went out a lot. I would rather just like stay in and play. So that's kind of what I was doing. Like when I wasn't studying and stuff, I kind of gravitated toward just playing. So yeah, it was like freshman year and sophomore year was a similar thing. I mean, my whole college experience was kind of that, just like studying and learning a lot of new cool things and then spending my free time playing. But again, I never thought like I would pursue music. It was always just like I play because I like it. And then that was it. Like I was only playing because I liked it. And I also minored in music. So I wanted music to be a part of my education too.
Sure. Nothing
Yeah.
formal though. You weren't in bands. You weren't recording really. You're just kind of just jamming in your room, basically playing
Yeah.
mostly slide guitar kind of stuff. Or
Yeah. Mostly side guitar, bringing those Allman Brothers CDs with me to school, just playing along like I always did.
cool. And what about what about after college? Because things are going to change at some point.
Yeah. Well,
Get more serious musically. Where do we go from there?
yeah. I guess this is where it all comes together. So I'd always planned on just going to like grad school, like doing a PhD in math or going into industry, finance, whatever. But a kid who was on The Voice reached out to me and was like, "Hey, come over. We're having a jam session. I heard about you through mutual friends and whatnot." And I was like, "Okay, sure." I hadn't jammed with anybody in, I don't know, man, years, maybe since high
This
school.
was this was all after college.
This was right at the end of my senior year of college.
Okay.
So this is when I was deciding like what I was gonna do, in quotes. So we jammed, and it was like, wow, I fell in love with it. And he's a brilliant singer songwriter. His name's Dylan Hartigan. And I was like, yeah, math can wait. Math, that's always going to be there. Grad school is always going to be there. might as well take a chance on something while I'm young. And I really loved it. And so for the past 2 years, I was on the road with him.
It's
Basically, I
awesome.
mean, we were playing shows like every week, so it was cool, man. All down the East Coast, California, out west a little bit. It was definitely. It's so funny because I never thought I'd be here, and now I'm here, and I think I've gotten a lot better than I ever thought I would. So I'm just kind of taking it in stride, you know.
Yeah, it seems like you're very open to different things, but you're also at the same time working hard and playing and getting better, and you never stop. It's just like I don't. You were. I guess you were ready in a sense to get that break in in a sense with that with Dylan finding you and reaching out to you.
Yeah,
That's kind of crazy in a sense. He's based in that part of the country as well, New Jersey.
yeah. He actually just moved down to Nashville, but yeah, he's been in Jersey for a while now. So yeah.
And when are you going to Nashville?
Oh man, I don't know. It was taking things in stride with COVID, you know.
Yeah, for sure. It's everything's it's a changed world. What's
Right.
what is are there different cities that, I mean, obviously this is, again, COVID affects everything, but
Hmm.
is there a city you're considering moving to, or like one of the scenes that appeals to you? I know there's a big scene in Nashville and Austin
Yeah.
and Memphis and of course LA, New York. Like, are any of these places
Yeah, man.
well, you're kind of in New York now,
Yeah, I feel
outside of New York.
New York definitely feels like home to me. You know, I've been to a bunch of these cities just to play gigs. New York always has felt like home, but I don't know, man. You know, it's I'm taking things day by day. I have a lot of stuff I'm working on now. I'm not really thinking about relocating just yet. Especially, you know, because like I'm in between where I can make music a full time thing. I'm just trying to get there right now, where I can make
Sure.
music a full time thing, and then we'll worry about relocating when it makes sense. We'll say.
What kind of stuff were you listening to, like after college and as you started to work with Dylan? Have you? It's just, oh, you. I mean, have you always just loved Allman Brothers
Yeah,
and that type of music, and that's kind of like the type of music you just kind of is your bread and butter?
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
listen to other genres, or beyond classical even?
yeah. Well, the good thing about working with Dylan is it kind of pushed me outside of my comfort zone. You know, it's more of singer songwriter stuff. Like I would like Jim Croce, who I've always loved. And I've always been trying to fit slide playing into those genres where you wouldn't typically hear it. Um, so, I mean, the past couple of years, especially working with him, it's been a lot of like singer songwriter stuff, Jim Croce, James Taylor. But again, I'm always coming back to like the Allman Brothers and a
Sure.
lot of blues stuff, Muddy Waters, Albert Collins. Uh, Like that stuff I always come back to. A lot of Indian stuff, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, Ali Akbar Khan. I'm kind of like all over the place. And I also, I listen to hip hop too. Like I love all that stuff. I grew up with that stuff too, so
Anything that has like a melody to it, I think slide guitar can potentially will fit with, whether it's electric or acoustic. I think one of those can pretty much fit with so many genres, and maybe even all genres of music to some degree, like
I totally agree.
just
Yeah.
because the melodic aspect of it.
And that's kind of like uncharted territory, right? And so I'm kind of excited to work with those artists just to see if I can, lay down something new or something that hasn't been done yet.
I mean, I love it. I love the sound. Obviously, as a crazy Derek Trucks fan, just
Yeah.
the melodic aspect of it and the human voice quality to it, of course, is like definitely part of the appeal. I mean, you play one note on slide guitar, just like, and it rings out, and you got some vibrato to it, and that's adds so much to a song. And
Yep.
I love guitar and guitar driven music, so that can make other genres, music appeal to me for
Yeah.
sure. More.
There have been so many times where, you know, playing gigs and people come up to you after and they're like, what is that? Like, what are you doing? What is that thing on your finger? And that kind of makes me happy because I can really show people kind of what I'm going for and how what I'm going for can make you feel. which is always something I wanted to do. So I'm glad it's happening.
For sure. What about like in the music scene or anything like that? What are some of the challenges? Do you encounter like any drama with other bands or
Hmm.
promoters or things like that? What are some of the things to look out for?
I
And
mean,
obviously, just making a living is probably is the biggest
yeah,
challenge of all. But what about some of the impediments that you face
yeah.
and
Well, I
challenges?
mean, luckily my experience has been overwhelmingly positive. Everyone out on the trail is like, we're all just trying to have our own voice and make people feel a certain way. Everyone's very open and friendly. Um, so I don't really have anything negative to say. I mean, you just the road is tough sometimes. Being
For
out can
sure.
go wrong. That was the toughest thing for me. Just being out away from my family, my girlfriend, my close friends. But nothing else bad to say about it, man. It's been a hell of an experience.
What are things that you can do or ways to stay mentally sane on the road? Like, I mean, I guess BB King said that that I do the show for free. They pay me to travel. Is it the shows are the reward for the road? Is that kind of what it is?
It's absolutely true. It's You couldn't have said it better, man. Yeah. I mean, look, to keep myself sane, man, just a lot of, you know, playlists, podcasts, the normal things. I mean, you spend a
Sure.
lot of time in the car. I honestly don't have the best answers, but I would actually bring, it's so funny. I'd get so much shit for this. I would bring some math books on the road with me and I would do some math too. That definitely helped kill some time and stimulate an area that usually isn't stimulated anymore. So,
What kind of math are you doing? Is it like do you have a book and you solve a problem and then you turn to the page 100 and it says if you got the answer right? Is it that kind of thing?
yeah, well, sort of. So it was mostly, when you get senior year in college, grad school, it's mostly proving theorems. So you'll have like a proposition and you'll have to prove that proposition, using definitions and past theorems and stuff. So it's more like logic based rather than just like, you know, calculating things, which I
Yeah.
like. They're kind of like puzzles to me. So
Yeah.
Sudoku, if you're not into math, I guess Sudoku would be good too.
Yeah, the rest of the band was just smoking weed and doing
Yeah,
crossword puzzles on the other side of the room while you were doing math problems. I'm
well,
I'm
I got
guessing.
a lot of shit for it. That's totally
Well,
true.
you you shouldn't take it because there's something to be said for that.
It's all good fun though, man.
Intelligence and academic success is not frowned upon, but it's like made fun of. It's not held in esteemed regard in our culture and
Yeah.
society, and that's kind of sad in a sense.
It's all right though.
I know
I get
people are just busting your balls. I got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen besides the first Allman Brothers show, other shows with Derek and the Allman Brothers or Tedeschi Trucks Band shows live? Have you caught them live?
Yeah, I saw. When was the first time I saw Tedeschi Trucks? I was in college. I think they were playing Summer Stage in Central Park, and that's like a first come first served basis. Like you don't have to pay; you just show up, and whoever's first in line will be first, like right in front of the stage. So me and a few buddies. I mean, we showed up so early, and we like kind of like camped out in front. And we got basically right up against the stage, except that we picked the well, for me as a guitar player, I
You
picked
want to
the
be on
wrong
Derek's
guitar.
side?
I was on Susan's side, but it's
It's
fine,
all. Yeah, I know.
amazing experience, man. I mean, it's so because I had been listening, especially this was my freshman year of college toward the end, and throughout that whole year, I was just like listening to full concerts of Tedeschi Trucks like on YouTube. So once this moment came, it was just like, man, you can't even really put into words.
I know. I have a hard time doing that, and like talking about music and is kind of a challenging thing because it's something that needs to be heard and listened to and felt on an emotional and spiritual level to like describe things. Like it's a challenge. I find it
Yeah.
sometimes challenging and I don't want to be too basic and be like, I love the band, they're awesome, end of story. You have to like try to at least express to people how the music makes you feel. Did you get a chance to ever meet Derek, Susan, or any of the band or anything like that?
Man, I've tried so many times.
You have? It's not that. I feel like it's not that hard.
I know. I don't know
Maybe
what
in Central Park it's harder.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I saw them a bunch of times at the Beacon because they do their Beacon runs every year now, and I've been going to those every year since my freshman year of college or sophomore year of college. I can't remember, but I would always because I don't. Have you been to the Beacon?
I actually have not. No.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a side door where everyone like, comes through. I guess VIP and like the band and stuff. So, God, I've met Tim Lefebvre. I've met. Oh my God, I'm blanking out. This is sacrilegious to this podcast. I'm like,
it's all good. I can splice it in later.
it's Falcon and
JJ.
JJ Jones. Okay, so I met JJ. He's such a good guy. He was showing me videos of his daughter, which was so pure and allegorical. And yeah, so I met them. I really wanted to meet Kofi. His playing was, that's just immediate. Like you hear that for the first time and that just, if that doesn't move you, then like, I don't know what will, so I really wanted to meet him. But yeah, I met Tim and JJ and it's great guys, man. Like, but not Derek yet.
Someday.
I passed Susan on the street in New York. I actually got it like a slice of pizza right before the show, and I was walking back to the Beacon, and like she was getting out of the car as I passed. So, hey Susan.
Do you get starstruck or anything like that, or is it just more you're excited to see? Like for me, it's like I'm excited to see Tedeschi Trucks Band and see members of this band more than like famous actors or something like that. This means more to me, these little things.
Yeah, I don't get starstruck. I just, especially as someone who has performed, it's like I just want to tell them that what they do moves me.
Right.
I think like that's because when people say that to you, it's just that's nothing else needs to be said. That's it. That's what keeps you going, man.
It really is just the kind words, when I occasionally receive them in relation to this podcast, I tell people I appreciate it. And honestly, let them know that's definitely helps me and motivates me and keeps me going. And like you're describing the band on a personal level, like, that's how everyone describes them, is just nice and down to earth and great people. Like there's been no reason to think otherwise, just based on every single guest I talk to, whether it's a musician, a journalist, a fan. Everyone's interactions with the bands and the members of the band over the years have just been totally positive, and everyone is just so sweet with their time and energy, and they're talented, amazing musicians. Goes without saying.
It's funny. I actually wrote my college essay about Derek Trucks. I can't even remember what I was writing, but I remember being a senior and like bringing it to the show, and I'm like, I got to meet him. I got to give him this letter, So Derek, if he's listening to this podcast, I still want to give you that letter.
Scan it and I'll post it, or you should post it or something like that. And then it'll also be backed up digitally if it's not already. I gotta take a picture of it.
I'll send it to you if I find it.
What are some other highlights of so far your music journey? Because I see on your website you've had some pretty cool things happen and some cool successes.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so funny. I think like I never thought I'd end up here. So with
I could tell. You mean it too.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about it because I don't stop and think. It's like I'm so thankful for everything I have and all the opportunities I've had. But to answer your question, Kelly Clarkson invited me and Dylan to come to one of her shows and perform during a segment she had called A Minute and a Glass of Wine, where we'd we'd play a tune with her band and she would do an interview in front of however many people you can fit in a stadium, like 10,000 or something. And that's like an insane experience,
I bet.
Especially for someone like me. I just got into this like a year ago. Now I'm, supposed to play in front of 10,000 people and not lose my cool taking a solo in front of 10,000 people. You know what I mean? But I really like, that's, again, this is another experience you can't put into words. It's like, it's just unreal. Everyone is so nice. Everyone's so humble. Kelly is like an amazing person. And, it's not fake. Like, her persona on TV is not fake at all. She's so cool, so nice. She didn't need to take the time to come out before the show and like hang out with us and chat with us. And she did. So, I can't say enough positive things about her and her team, and just the experience, man. Like, when you just get up there and you just close your eyes and play in front of that many people, it's really moving. So,
wow, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that and all the other successes, for sure. It's
Thanks,
exciting, man. And I definitely dig your playing. That's I hear 3 notes and I'm like, I want to talk to this guy. Basically.
I'm humbled, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
What about, you're going to say, I don't know, we're going to see where it goes, but what about sort of hopes, dreams, plans, goals? Obviously, this is dependent on how our society functions in the next few years and in the upcoming near future. But what would you want? Where do you see your career going? And maybe even beyond the guitar. I don't know what the hell where you might be playing classical piano in 5 years. You might be, or who knows where we're going? But where do you maybe see yourself?
No, it's a great question. I've never really been the type of guy to think like super long term. Like, I never was like a kid being like, I want to be a professional baseball player, but I definitely have like short term goals. I have things now that I've been working on that I'm really excited about. Like, I'm working on a video book for slide guitar. I feel like, there isn't too much content out there right now. So I'm trying to tap into that. And that's taken up a lot of time. So that's been a goal of mine to publish that. I'm working on an instrumental album. I'm really excited about that.
Also slide guitar, mostly?
Yeah. Slide guitar focused. Just, because I've never really put my original, emotional stuff out there. So I'm excited to do that. And I also started like giving lessons recently, and I love it. So like, these are the things I want to do. And, if I get a call one day from somebody who wants to go on the road and needs a slide guitar player, like, I'd love to do that,
That's cool. Are your lessons also giving, is it slide guitar lessons? It's all ages. Like, how's that going?
Yeah. It's slide guitar and, all levels. I'm just really excited to put people on the right path, because most of my students, it's like, they kind of just get stuck and they just need like me to pave the way.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably what I need. If I have the time and the resources, maybe I'll consider it or something like that. We'll talk maybe more down the line.
Oh,
I do love it, and I am that person you're describing who kind of got stuck and kind of gave up on it.
Yeah. And I just love sending people in the right direction. I think I have a lot of teachers in my family too. I guess it's just in the blood. It's a very rewarding thing to do, and I enjoy it. So,
to see someone's progress, yeah.
Yeah. So all levels, anyone who's interested. I've also, we can teach chords and open E and all that good stuff too, but mostly just slide, yeah.
And that's kind of how you've been sort of trying to market yourself, obviously, just as slide. Do you find it more challenging to find clients, or is it's such a specific thing that people search out for, but there's enough like people out there? How does the wrinkle of being a slide teacher sort of impact, the lesson business?
It's a good question. I don't know typically like what the typical numbers are. I'm just happy that I have the handful of students that I have.
There you go.
But But yeah, I feel like there aren't a lot of slide teachers out there. I mean,
I
even
agree.
when I picked it up, there was no one. I'm also in Jersey. I don't know what it's like in other parts of the country, but I mean, there was really no one I could go to for lessons, and I really hadn't considered doing online lessons. I don't think it really was a thing back then. This was like what, 2012, 2011. I feel like it's very niche, as you say, but there aren't a lot of teachers, and there are a lot of people who are interested in it. You know, you can just see that by like how many views a Duane Allman solo has on YouTube. Like people
Right.
definitely are into it. You know what I mean? But there aren't a lot of teachers, so I'm just happy to like get in there while it's still kind of new and fresh. So yeah.
What are the students telling you when you first meet them? What do they say to you that they want to learn? They're like, make me sound like Duane, make me sound like Derek, make me sound like someone else. You know, what are you hearing from them?
Yeah.
What do they want to become or sound like?
A lot of people like me look up to these guys, like me and you. We look up to Derek Trucks, look up to Duane Allman, and you know, not necessarily learn solos note for note, but just kind of understand what's going through their head or what's going through my head when I'm playing. You know, that's kind of what the vibe is. Like, how am I thinking when I'm approaching a solo? Like, how can I use 3 notes, right, for for an entire solo? You know, I think that's what people are interested in, just like tone and technique too. You know, it's really all over the place. But I'd say it's mostly just about getting the feel of Duane, Derek, and all those greats. Like that's what the focus usually is.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I tell myself sometimes when I play, and then like kind of what my goals are. If I can just capture like 1/10, 1/100th of the spirit and style and technique or whatever of what Duane and Derek are doing, then like I'm happy as just someone who's doing this not professionally. Like, yeah, I mean, those are the, you know, that's like Mount, you know, they're on the Mount Rushmore of whatever guitar players like guitar players even beyond that. But like just to capture a tiny part of that and more, learn 1 lick, learn 2 licks, learn, and then that stuff you could build upon and add it to your own playing, which is cool. But just to get a tiny bit of that sound into your sound is always fun and awesome and the goal, really.
Definitely.
Cool. Why don't you tell me where people can find you, where people can follow you, anything else you're working on, anything else you want to talk about, Derek, Susan, your stuff. I'll kind of give you the floor.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, thank you. Honestly, thanks for having me on. This is the first time I've talked about myself at length, so it's nice, and yeah, I appreciate the invitation. But
for sure,
you know, Instagram, Dan Toppo Music, YouTube, Dan Toppo Music. Those are the 2 platforms that I'm active on. And like I'm working on this video book that's taken up a lot of my time. It's going to be 2 hours, 2.5 hours of me teaching you Duane Allman, Derek Trucks style licks. So if you're interested in that, just, you know, stay tuned on my socials, and you'll definitely hear about it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just trying to keep going for this full-time musician thing.
You should. You definitely should. And again, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing new music, the instrumental album, and checking out, you know, all your content. And hopefully maybe next year, you did mention you were on the West Coast at some point, maybe again at some point, I'll see you out here or connect at a show and get to see you perform live. That would be cool. But I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. You're a few hours ahead of me.
Yeah, man.
And let's talk soon, for sure.
Sounds good, man.
You got it, man. Later.
Take it easy.
So there you go. My conversation with Dan Toppo. That was a lot of fun. And I again thank Dan for taking the time. Everyone I talked to on this show has been just so generous with me at connecting with people who are passionate about music, and Tedeschi Trucks Band is just the best. Anyway, for now, hope everyone is hanging in there during this super fun and wonderful 2020. For now, check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. And of course, remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or via whichever way you listen to this show. And again, positive reviews on iTunes are very much greatly appreciated. But I think that's about all I got for today. Thanks again for listening. Later.